Introducing Tundra Football League.
Welcome back to all my friends and fellow FTFLers to the longest running weekly episodic fantasy football update show. That's right, this is the FTFL weekly update, and I am not only your host, but the owner of the 5-2 barnstorming Hulkamaniacs, the true king of the FTFL, and I can't say it enough. When you lay your head down at night and you close your eyes, you hear it, the singing. Because I am the song that's deep down in each and every one of your hearts. That is right. It is I, Brett Sieber. Welcome back. My, 7 weeks down. We are now past the halfway point of the FTFL season. 6 weeks to go. Things are starting to take shape. Some teams are definitely bowing out early. However, that trend has been in effect for a while now. Just ask Jeff Markser. However, nothing fully decided. Big matchups next week, but we need to get to the matchups that took place this week. Of course, I mentioned Hulkamaniacs back on track after a loss last week. Back in the win column, we'll get to that game. Andy continues to fall, and we're going to take a deep dive into just how does this compare to past championship defense seasons. When a person wins the FTFL league title, like I did in 2003, what happens the following season? Is he on track for the worst record in the history of the league? We'll definitely get to that. For the second time this season, a 70-point loss has been avenged. That just blows my mind to think that you lost not once but twice by 70 points, and not just an entire season, in a half of a season, and then in that same half of a season turned around and avenged not one but both. Bravo to the architect for drawing up the plans on that one. We may never see something like that again. This week we had a first place clash that didn't quite have the shine of that trophy that I won back in 2003. We'll get to that game. And then, as I was putting notes together, pen on paper for this week's show, I said, wow, golly gee, it's been an entire month since we've had a show without a trade. And then it came across the news wire. That is right. Breaking news, there's been a trade in the league as yet another team seems to have given up on the season, even though they are still in playoff contention with 6 to go. Derrick Henry, there goes that man again. Well, he's on his way to a brand new team. He's been traded within the division. That's right, John has traded Derrick Henry and an 11th round pick to none other than Jeff and his Mana 3-time Lucky Pants. I'm looking for a 4th champ. Mana! What did Jeff have to give up for this? Woo-wee! Did he give up a ransom? His 1st and his 3rd round pick in next year's draft and his 3rd round pick in the 2022 draft. Looking a whole lot like the Todd Gurley trade. I'll tell you how that ended up. A big fat... That's right. My, oh my. Now, Jeff is going to pair Derrick Henry with Josh Jacobs, with David Johnson, and when he comes off the IR, Nick Chubb. Jeff will have a handful of running backs to choose from. Too bad he doesn't have a quarterback and or the wherewithal to know which quarterback to play each week. I kind of feel like he's playing for second place. Who's with me? Speaking of second place, on to the games, because the loser of our first game now finds himself in second place in the South. Coming in, marquee matchup. The 4-2 Ryan Deason fantasy football team taking on the 4-2 Pack Attack in is what just yet another fantasy football game between two teams. It was the lowest scoring game combined of... it was the second... Hold on here. Let me get the notes correct. There's a lot going on here. All right. So, Eric, in victory this week, had the second lowest point total of the week, and it was his lowest point total of the entire season, yet it was enough to beat the Ryan Deason fantasy football team 80.5 to 72.5. He takes over first place with his fourth victory in a row. He is absolutely on a tear. If you are Eric, once again, after his bye, guess who's back in the kitchen? That's right, old stupid face Russell Wilson, another 32 points. Good Lord. Someone take the spoon away from him before we all get food poisoning. Melvin Gordon, 11 points. So let's be clear, Melvin Gordon is in a heap of trouble with the DUI that he got. He also fumbled. Phillip Lindsay, if Phillip Lindsay doesn't get hurt, Melvin Gordon is almost maybe for certain going to lose that starting gig. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a second touchdown of the season, notched 10.5 points. Jonnu Smith, half point. James White, half point. Now, James White, of course, this year lost his parents, I believe both, maybe just one. Terrible. Hasn't quite been himself this season. He's averaging 4.4 points a week. Back in 2019, he was averaging 17.9, and in 2018, he averaged 11. I remember when Deason had him, he was tearing it up, nowhere near the running back that he has been. However, it didn't matter because Deason's team really didn't show up. Let's be clear, Kansas City didn't show up. If you're Swart, you thought they showed up, but they didn't. We'll get to more on that later. For the first time in pretty much forever, Mahomes was not the leading scorer for Deason's team. Tyler Boyd, 17.5. Kareem Hunt, 13.5. Patrick Mahomes, 10, was his lowest output of the season, and it is only the fourth time he has scored that low in the last 3 years. Rare air and or basement dwelling, rare for Patrick Mahomes. Daniel Carlson, 10. Jerick McKinnon got 3 carries and the hook. I guess something was a bit sore. The coach said we want to rest him. 0 points. Travis Kelce, 3.5, averaged 12.4 on the season. I'm not a math teacher in Browerville, but I'm pretty sure the difference between that average and what Kelce scored this week would have gotten Deason the victory and kept him in first place, so we could have had an all first place matchup this week, but no! Way to go, Ryan. Way to go. Nice job, Eric. You move on to 5-2 and first place in the South. On next to another great matchup in the South, the Architect 3-3 taking on the king of the FTFL at 3-3 in the second Friendship Bowl. Now, I mentioned Matt last week avenged that 70-point loss earlier in the season to Deason, and this week he did it again. Avenged a 70-point loss to Sid, 94-87. Sid, of course, after winning last week, declared for not the first, not the second, but the third time this year, I'm back, baby! And then promptly fell flat on his face. If you're Matt, good Lord, Devontae Adams lit the place on fire. Now, in weeks 1 and 7, he has combined for 62.5 points. In all weeks 2 and 6, because 3 and 4, of course, he didn't play. He scored 10.5. He has been boom or bust. Will the boom continue? I hope so. And, of course, I'm sure Matt is in agreement with me. Carson Wentz, 24. Will Fuller, his 5th touchdown game in a row, put 9.5 on the board. Ezekiel Elliott. My, oh my. That season is completely lost in Dallas, and I'm not entirely sure what kind of value Ezekiel Elliott has at the moment. 2.5 points. He has yet to surpass the 100-yard mark in a game this season. Whew! For a keeper, that's tough. Of course, this week it did not matter. If you're Sid, the king of the wide receivers, Deontay Johnson, 20.5, Calvin Ridley, 14.5, Matt Ryan off the scrap heap with 14, Antonio Gibson having a very solid year in Washington with 14. OBJ, out, torn ACL, 0 points. I'm going to talk a little bit. Actually, I have a friend who's going to talk a little bit more about OBJ later on in the show. Some thoughts on him. Tannehill, 20. A.J. Brown, 23 on the bench. Both of which would have been a help to Sid. And he could have won this week instead of he loses, falls to 3 and 4, and now 2 games back of first place in the South. On now to a North matchup. 3-3 Menomina taking on 3-3 Linkowitz. The game before the trade, I guess is what we're going to call this. Mana, 3-time Lucky Pants champ Mana, coming out firing. 102, and he downs Linkowitz, who only could muster 85.5 points. Jeff now is 25-17-1 against Team Linkowitz. It is his highest winning percentage against any one opponent. That's right, John. You've been paying Jeff's rent now for years. DeAndre Hopkins, 21 points. The Buffalo defense, 15. Boston Scott in a spot start, 13.5 points. Josh Jacobs, 3.5. Stephon Diggs, 5. Josh Jacobs, maybe not all that great. I think he's good. I don't know if he's great. Maybe that's why Jeff traded for Derrick Henry. Those two were the only guys in singles on Jeff's team. Justin Herbert, 38 on the bench. And also on Jeff's bench, not entirely sure you saw this, Dez Bryant. That's right, Dez Bryant, who hasn't played in 2 years, who's now on the practice squad for the Ravens. I guess Jeff just hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. I think more so it'll be a fart in church, but that's maybe just me. Jared Goff for John, 16 points. The Gronk off the waiver wire and into the starting lineup with 12.5 seems to be picking up some steam as we go along. Derrick Henry in his final swan song performance for Big John. Big John, Derrick Henry brought you to the victory last week. 1 week later, he doesn't get it done, and you kick his ass to the curb. It's tough. It's tough being a part of Team Linkowitz. Tyreek Hill, 11. Watch out, Tyreek. You may be next. Everyone on John's team was between that 6 and 16 range. No real breakout performance, and thus the loss. All right, well, now we come to the part where we're going to take a little break. I've got a friend who wants to talk a little bit to you about some of his thoughts on what's going on in the FTFL and NFL at the moment. I give you Macho's Musings.
Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah, here we go. Macho's Musings. Here's what I've been thinking. Radioactive monkeys. What on earth is a radioactive monkey? Is that a monkey that got a little too close to the power plant? Is that a monkey that was digging too deep and found himself some uranium? I'll tell you, it's two things that really don't belong together whatsoever. Yet here we are, the radioactive monkeys. Now, the problem is, monkey see is monkey do, and I don't know. I think you're walking around the league, looking around, trying to figure out, what should I be doing? So then in the process of all that, you give away a first, you give away a fourth, and you give away a sixth. You're looking at nothing for next year! And when you're down looking at your hands with what you've got left from this year, it's going to look a lot the same. Empty-handed is what you're going to be, and empty-handed is where I'm going to leave the king as well. Let me tell you what, King of the FTFL. Yeah, King of the FTFL, thinking you're all that. I am the Macho King, and I'm the only king, and you need to disband your kingdom, and you need to do it immediately. You've said you're back not once, not twice, but thrice, and each and every time you have found your way to blow it, just like OBJ's ACL. No, the Macho Man doesn't want to see anyone get hurt. No, he doesn't. However, OBJ, every circus needs a clown, and you have been that clown! All sizzling, no steak, that's right. None of that steak in there whatsoever. The greatest receiver that never was. It's never gonna happen! Not for you, OBJ, and not for you, King of the FTFL. Because let's be real clear, if the FTFL was a bar, that's right, if it was a bar! And the Hulkamaniacs were a drink, each and every one of you would have ordered 6 of them by now because they are that damn good. That's right! The cream of the crop, baby! They are the best. And that's been the Macho's Musings. Dig it!
Woo! All right. Well, entertaining as always. Thank you, Macho Man, for being part of the show. On to the games. The 3-3 Radioactive Monkeys coming in on... Well, of course, now the Monkeys, who were a point of topic of that Macho Man touched on, seemingly all in. Add to that now Jeff Marks are seemingly all in. Both, let's be real clear, chasing this guy. Do what you can, try as you may. I think in the end, it just won't be your day. That's right, I got a little bit of Macho Man in me. Wait. No, you know what? On to the game. Radioactive Monkeys 3-3 taking on Mixin' Cocktails at 1-5. That's right. The reigning, defending, undisputed champion of the FTFL. That's right, Mixing Cocktails comes in at 1-5, and they fall to 1-6. Salty puts up 131.5, high score of the week to Andy's 91. Now at 1-6, I got to wonder. I'm like, all right, so where is this season going to fit? In the history, in the annals, not the anal, but the annals of the FTFL. How is it going to compare to some of those other seasons? You were a champion, you go into your title defense, what happens? So I went back all the way back to the very, very, very beginning of the league, and every single champion in here is what I found. The best title defense running was the Kermit Crusaders, champions in 04, and in 05 they went 11-3 and didn't win the title. I believe if we go back to last year's FTFL update as we celebrated 20 years of the FTFL, 05 was the LaDainian Tomlinson year, and Jeff pissed it away. Now, that is the high end of where things have been. We were looking for the low end, and that belongs to Communist China circa 1945. The 2011 champions came out in 2012 and flat dropped an egg at 4-9. Now, Andy at 1-6 is not far from it. However, it's definitely within reach. Twice, the Radioactive Monkeys won a title, and twice followed it up with the 5-8 season. That tickled me just a little. Of course, this week, the Radioactive Monkeys did get the last lap. Kyler, Stupid Face Jr. Murray, 38 points in that stunning overtime victory against Seattle. I hope you stayed up to watch it because it was amazing. James Robinson and his hot tub. No, that was James Brown's hot tub. You know what? Maybe James Robinson has a hot tub too. He notched 24. Todd Gurley, who tried to fall over, couldn't, gave Adam 6 more points, hit 17. Chris Godwin, 14.5. He did break his finger. He's probably going to be out another week. Not that that means Tom Brady's going to throw the ball to 6'5", 230-pound Mike Evans. No! Why would we want to do that, Tom Brady? Well, because I've got all sorts of other people now. I've got Antonio Brown. How can you ignore Mike Evans? The dude is an athletic freak. God, come on, Tom Brady, you bum. Anyways, I digress from this game. Oh, wait, Tom Brady was on Adams' bench with 36 points, none of which were to Mike Evans. All right, that was the last blow-up on Mike Evans, at least for a little while. Harrison Butker, 14. He has missed 5 points after attempts this season. I'm assuming he's got a job in Kansas City for the foreseeable future, but you never know. Phillips Lindsay, 4. I did mention he got hurt. He is in concussion protocol. Michael Gallup, the darling of the trade all those weeks ago, 0 points on Saltmarsh's bench. If you're Andy, Drew Brees, 22. Christian Kirk, the other side of that Gallup trade. Now, I know we've been keeping track of that. Not quite the way we've been keeping track of this, and we are going to update that in just a moment. But Christian Kirk and a 4th was given to Andy. Basically, here, take this. I don't need this good player in this 4th round pick. You can have him. I'll take on deadweight Michael Gallup in your 11th round pick. Sorry, 10th round pick. Sorry, Saltmarsh. To date, with that 16.5 for Kirk and the 0 for Gallup, Kirk is up 50.5 to Gallup's 8. That is one of the all-time worst trades and very decent worthy in a season in which Adam Swart really has a stranglehold on it. We'll have to see where it goes. Cole Beasley, 11.5 points. Chase Edmonds, 11.5 points. And with Drake out now for a few weeks, Chase Edmonds could be a star. Too bad Andy's team is really a falling star at this point. McCaffrey could be back next week. Doesn't matter. Thomas has only played a quarter of football. Who cares? Andy's team is terrible. They're falling down, and he is tarnishing the good God-given name of the FTFL champion. Now, I did say we'd update it, of course. Aaron Jones did not play this week, so his score will stay at 85. Clyde didn't light it on fire, even though he scored, but James Robinson now finds himself in the lead at 95 points. Aaron Jones still at 85. Even when he didn't play, Clyde still couldn't catch him. 67 points for Clyde. This thing is getting out of hand. Eric, just like John, and well, John, not really John, but Swart and Salty, you, my friend, are maybe in a 3 or a 4-person race if we include Andy. That's right, you could win the whole damn thing. But you won't, because I'm going to, and still get the decent for that piss-poor first-round draft pick. All right, I know the game you've all been waiting for, and now you're probably hitting the fast-forward button on your things because disrespect. The Decent award-winning visitors from Planet B with questionable motives coming into 2-4, taking on yours truly's Hulkamaniacs at 4-2. We lost last week, but we got back on that train. Woo! This week, moving to 5-2, 111-98. Funny thing, earlier in the day, Swart's team started scoring a bunch of points, and the jibber jabber started flying. And I told Swart, unless you're up by 30, it's not going to matter. At one point, he was well up over 30. And then Denver scored some late crappy touchdown and knocked the Kansas City's defense score down. And all of a sudden, we were going into Sunday night. Swart had Kenyon Drake and 29.5 points on his side. That's right, not 30, 29.5 points on his side. I had Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Chris Carson. And, well, the rest was history. Of course, we know Tyler Lockett smooth blew it up. 41.5 points. The 5th highest wide receiver score in league history. The highest, 43.5. Only 2 points off of that. Now, he has had 2 3-touchdown weeks. Let me just take a little trip back in the time machine, if you will. He was my 3rd round pick. He was the 2nd receiver I took in the draft behind Mike Evans, who was a 1st round pick, who, by the way, throw him the damn ball, Brady. But he was the 3rd wide receiver on my team, as DK Metcalf was my rookie keeper. And I'm sure some of you are going, well, wait, Brett, why would you draft a 2nd Seattle wide receiver as then your 3rd receiver? Why? What do you know that we don't know? Is there something that you were aware of? Come on, that's preposterous. Preposterous. But I'll take every one of those 41.5 points this week. I mean, DK Metcalf got flat shut down. But that's okay, because when you got the 3-headed Seattle Monster, being fed the ball from stupid-faced Russell Wilson, it has been nothing but roses all season. Of course, the Boogeyman bounced back from his 2-point performance with 32 points. Alvin Kamara got 12. 2 weeks in a row, he has not scored a touchdown. He is still the number 1 running back in football. That's right. And Tyler Lockett is the number 1 wide receiver in all of football. Again, almost as if I saw something coming, but come on, really? I mean, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Chris Carson gets the Wet Paper Sack of the Award, Wet Paper Sack of the Week award. He is dinged up yet again. Doesn't sound like he maybe will miss any time. Maybe just a game. All right, let's stud, dud, and decent, and then we'll wrap this up and we'll kick it on down the road till next week. Stud of the week. This one was easy. Tyler Lockett, 41.5. His 2nd, again, triple of the year. Dud of the week. OBJ, because you are a dud. You have been nothing but, you're all sizzle and no steak, to steal a line from the great JR. You're the greatest receiver that never was, most in part due to you. Now, the injury, that sucks. But at this stage in your career, it's going to be tough to come back and actually be the receiver you were ever supposed to be. So you're the dud. And, oh, by the way, Travis Kelce, who fell way below his average and cost Deesum a victory. This week's reason why Swart should get the Deesum Award, he left Joe Burrow on the bench. Joe Burrow in his lineup instead of Big Ben. Oh, I didn't even get to Swart's scores. I got so excited about talking about Tyler Lockett, I totally forgot. Yeah, Swart's had the KC defense. They got 21. Big Ben, 16. Giovanni, late crappy waiver wire pickup Bernard, somehow put a touchdown in, 14.5. Randy Bullock, 11. Joe Burrow on the bench, 34. Swart, you lost by 13 points. Joe Burrow had 18 more points than Big Ben. I'll let you do the math on that one. Or wait, I got a guy you can call. Give me a call after the show. Deontay this week did beat Julio Jones, of course, because Julio Jones is terrible compared to Deontay Johnson. Everybody knows that. Only 10 for Julio. Of course, Swart leaving Burrow on the bench is why he should get the Deesum. Also, Andy's championship follow-up season is definitely now in consideration and in the running as well. As for Week 8, here we go. The matchup I look forward to each and every year. And for a long time, I was the 2 in 2-19 or 2-21 or whatever the hell it was. It was ridiculous, but that all changed last year. That all changed. Because I am now the 1 in 1-0 in the next 20 years of the FTFL. And next week, I'm looking to make it 2, baby. That's right, the Hulkamaniacs at 5-2, taking on Ryan Deesum's fantasy football team at 4-3. The Radioactive Monkeys at 4-3, taking on Mana, 3-time Lucky Pants, going for 4 champ Mana. In what used to be the Log Cabin Pizza Bowl, now is simply just trying to keep pace with their Division Leaders Bowl. Both teams looking for a win. The South Division leading Pack Attack at 5-2, taking on the now have given up Linkowitz at 3-4. This series is 11-11 all time. You haven't been paying Eric's rent, John. Well done. The king of the FTFL, 3-4, taking on Plan B at 2-5. If the winner of this keeps pace and is in the playoff race, the loser starts planning for next year's draft. The Architect, the surprising Architect, who is playing really well as of late, 4-3, taking on the dreadful Mixing Cocktails. That is it for this week, my friends. Until next week, I'm off Rolex shopping. Peace!